Hi, my name is Catherine White. I'm the Executive Director of IFAMA, and I would like to welcome you to the 2024 Virtual Symposium. Our presenter this morning, is Meike Rombach from New Zealand. She is working in the area of horticulture marketing, dedicated her research to marketing on social issues in New Zealand's horticulture sector. Her research findings are relevant to a range of shareholders and both academic and industry, and she is committed to delivering value in both areas. While her roots are in the horticulture sector, she also explores other areas of research and enjoys engaging in multidisciplinary research and applying lessons learned to other areas.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome from New Zealand. My name is Meike, and with me is my colleague David. And on behalf of our team, we're very excited to present you our teaching case study, Bridezilla and her floral antics. It is a case where we're trying to understand narcissistic consumer behavior in New Zealand's floristry sector.
Hi, our team is made up of Micah, who's a horticultural marketer, Valerie, a health marketer, and I'm a food marketer. And I guess the things that we share besides marketing is our love of case studies and using them as an excellent way to engage students and to get them to think about problems. Our link in this case to the sector is mostly through Micah. She's a trained horticulturalist in ornamental flower production, and also she's on the industry body for florists and floristry sector in New Zealand. So the case really is looking at a problem which is a real problem in the industry, although maybe a bit dramatized. And then we try to come up with an academic response to what the industry could do to address this issue.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you for introducing us. I will be covering now how we developed this case. As David had outlined, I'm involved with New Zealand florists and flower growers, and through this involvement with industry, I had the opportunity to speak to florists, and they shared their opinion, experiences from their professional reality. And they explained to us what is sometimes ongoing in their shop, and that it's sometimes really crazy, and that some consumers seem not to be able to behave themselves. So all of these stories we analyzed through content analysis following Clark and Brown. And then the findings from our stories we shared back with industry through an oral presentation. Our teaching case is developed, as we had said, based on real life events that various florists had shared, and we have written up all these findings and submitted to IFAMA, and we are looking forward to your feedback in order to make a proper journal submission.
So the structure is 4 parts. First, we look at sort of the problem holistically from the through a dialogue with some characters in the industry, but try to figure out if this is an issue, how widespread it is, and so what does it look like in the industry? Then in part 2, we go into people's reactions, people's opinions, sometimes from the perspective of the florists themselves, with little vignettes that they've provided, and then their take on some of the consumers' reactions and consumer attitudes that have shared with them. In the part 3, we're talking about sort of how to deal with these bridezillas. So this is really trying to match up literature's frameworks, theories with the different types of actions, behaviors and attitudes and see if we can make this work together. And then we follow up with a discussion of the teaching notes that are provided in the case.
Thank you, David. So in part one, we're introducing two of our characters. There's our main character, Sandra, the owner of Floral Dreams, who's the hero of our story, and the side character, Helena, who's the upcoming star in Auckland's floristry sector. So Sandra is Helena's mentor, and she gives her a call because she had been in a situation that is really unfortunate. So-called Bridezilla had thrown a fit into her store because one flower hadn't had the perfect shade, and she was very distressed over the situation and accused Helena, who's a young professional, that she had ruined her wedding dreams. And unfortunately, other customers were in the store and witnessed this scene. So then Helena says, okay, I need a bit of time to carefully evaluate your situation and I come back. So Helena asked herself many questions. What is fair towards both parties? Is this a single incident, or is this an industry-wide Bridezilla problem?
So we start with some sort of broad questions. First is sort of a warm-up question to get the students to look at the different problems that they see in the case. And this sort of outlines some of the issues that we're trying to cover. It gets them a reason for reading through some of the detail as well. Then in the second question, we provide them with the literature review of narcissistic consumer behavior. And in doing so, they can see some of the ways in which narcissistic behavior has been characterized, how it can cause some damage, and how it has been addressed, or at least mitigated in situations or suggestions in the literature. So they start to think what's happening from an academic point of view. How has this been addressed in the past? And then question 3, we really pit sort of two ethical frameworks together in the whole idea of is the response, the Bridezilla behavior, the response, where does it fit in terms of the ethical responses and ethical actions, and how that has an impact on basically not necessarily who's in the wrong, but it gives some guidelines in terms of the boundaries between what is considered ethical behavior and when it breaks over into unethical behavior.
In the second question, in the second part, Sandra then decides, okay, whether this is a single incident or not, I need to bring it up with my committee, because she's also the chairwoman of Women in Floristry in New Zealand. And so she schedules a meeting, and members of her committee, as well as invited guests who are part of the industry, they are then discussing. And Sandra brings a video to spark the conversation, and based on what they see, then this serves as an icebreaker, and they start discussing. Toxic personality traits of consumers that they have experienced. What is actually, to what do they need to be attentive? What do they need to respond to in terms of demands of consumers? And we are also discussing what needs to be accommodated, or where is it helpful to take perspective and put yourself into the shoes of a stressed bride. So it turns out there's no industry-wide issue, but the occasional incident can occur. However, it is agreed that specifically young professionals need to be trained to deal with these kind of consumers.
Okay, back to the series of questions. We've got question 4. in which we start to look at the problem from whether it's a legitimate versus illegitimate expectations, and also how they're bringing about their complaint behavior. So the idea is that if it's a legitimate behavior, it's something that we should definitely take and put into our lexicon of responses as marketers. If it's an illegitimate consumer expectations, we at least need to be aware that this is some part of the consumer population is going to do this, and we need to at least have some ideas of what to do if we run into these types of people with illegitimate expectations. Then, in question 5, whether they have legitimate or illegitimate expectations, it has a likelihood, if we can't do what they want us to do as a florist, it's going to result in some sort of service delivery failure, so that something breaks down. And so that brings us into the literature on service recovery, where we tried to give some strategies on how to bring the service delivery back on track through service recovery, and address discuss some of the issues that a recovered service sometimes can have even a beneficial effect on attitudes towards the service provider.
In the last part, since it has been agreed there's no industry-wide issues, but however training is required, we thought about, okay, if a Bridezilla comes really to somebody's shop and is misbehaving there so badly, you're easily in a conflict situation, and conflict needs to be mitigated professionally. And therefore, we use the Thomas and Killman conflict resolution model. We looked at these 4 strategies, how to accommodate conflict. At the end, Sandra starts wondering when she reads through the model, yes, this is an appropriate solution. This is something that needs to be trained. However, competing and avoiding may probably not the best course of action. In addition, she starts wondering whether wedding planners are also an appropriate solution to mitigate problems with Bridezilla customers. And with that, I hand over again to David and the question section.
Thanks, Meike. So the first question, or the question 6, is really looking at the idea of, are all of these appropriate responses to conflict, and are they all going to have are they the professionally possible and appropriate? And so we get the students then to rank the different conflict resolution options, of course, with expecting that the competing and avoiding are going to land at the bottom of that ranking. Once they have chosen, they've committed to the ranking, we ask them then to take their highest ranked and see, well, what would this look like in the context of the florist consumer interaction? So now you've banked on this particular as a response. How would this look? And then finally, in question 8, if you are choosing this, what strategies could you use to make sure that this is going to be successful in a florist situation, so that existing recovering interactions with Bridezillas or new customers or all customers are going to be a positive way forward to have a good service experience?
Well, as you have seen, have given you already a little sneak peek into our teaching notes, and we would like to emphasize that we have strictly followed all IFAMA requirements, and that we are offering practical as well as theoretically guided solution to industry, and we are covering Bridezilla behavior of narcissistic consumer behavior, because the way the traits that Bridezillas display are in fact nothing as then traits of narcissistic consumers. We're using ethical frameworks. We're using frameworks related to legitimate and illegitimate complaints. We are presenting a framework how to practically follow through with service failure. And then in the last bit, you have seen we are also providing advice in terms of conflict management, and there we have borrowed again from psychology papers. And with that, we thank you very much for your time, and we're very curious to hear your questions.
So just to give you a brief window into the lives of Bridezillas, we offer you this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Meike, for sharing this informative presentation. Women that have weddings really take it seriously, huh?
Yes, I do. And I think with a distressed bride in the shop, it's a fine line of uncovering whether you're dealing with a bridezilla or whether you need to comfort somebody and just keep them calm and getting them into the mode to professionally interact.
So is bridezilla really kind of a general term for all the kinds of consumer bad behavior issues that we see in the consumer sector?
So Bridezilla is a term that has been developed by a journalist of the Boston Globe. It's a mixture of a bride who acts up because she's very emotionally involved into into the upcoming wedding, and the term Gonzilla, so the monster behind it. And in the floristry and the related wedding retail industry, this is a proper term.
So do bridezillas behave differently in rural settings compared to urban settings?
Bridezillas in different retail setting act differently. So, and that depends on the degree towards people are really narcissistic consumers, because a bridezilla at the very least is entitled, and entitlement is a trait of a narcissistic person. But well, entitlement can be just situational, but if the florist or the retail person interacting with them also detects things like glorification, supremacy, not treating employees professionally and appropriately, then they are good signs that you're dealing with a bridezilla. And in a retail tasting, they have very unrealistic demands towards people working in the stores.
What is or was your motivation for writing this case study and pursuing this line of research?
So my motivation, well, as people in IFAMA know, Meike does all kinds of things with flowers. And my career started in a small ornamental flower business, and I work closely with florists. And here in New Zealand, I got involved with the floristry sector. And when people started sharing their stories and what they experienced, I was kind of shocked And I thought, particularly, these are distressing situations, and I wanted to help young professionals in the industry how to better deal with this kind of situation. So the response to an industry need or the response to an industry problem was my initial one to that, but while we were working on it, we realized this is also a very good lesson for our students here at Lincoln University or any kind of rule professional that is dealing with a challenging customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do we have any questions from the audience? Any final comments, Micah?
Um, Well, it was a really fun topic. I think IFAMA can expect from our end to hear more about the floristry sector in New Zealand in terms of research, not only in a teaching capacity.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your case study. I appreciate you presenting it today. Wish it would have been in Spain, but this is the next best thing. Thank you.
Thank you.